Warning, this episode contains explicit content. Please proceed with caution. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Sex Talk. I am your host, Romeo. We can agree that there are certain foods that can enhance your libido, right? However, there are certain foods that should be avoided right before sex. On this week's episode, I will talk about the worst foods you can eat before sex. So, one of the worst things that can happen to anybody, and let's say you go on a date and everything is going according to plan, and you know that you're gonna get some sexercise, and out of the blue, let's just say your stomach starts to show signs of disapproval, and you start feeling a little bit bloated, and boom, your libido drops, and you might wonder what happened all of a sudden. Turns out it's the food that you ate before dinner. Or it's the food that you ate at dinner. So last week's episode, we talked about foods that enhance the libido, but what about those that actually kill the vibe in the bedroom right before getting into some sexercise? Well, lucky for you, this is why I'm here. I'm here to tell you about the foods that you actually must avoid if you're looking for some sexy time with your date. Okay, and here we go. The first one, of course, it is cheese. If you're lactose intolerant, then do not go out on a date for some pizza. Stay clear from cheese. And here's the thing is that mozzarella, ricotta, or even cottage cheese they're pretty much high in lactose, which can cause severe discomfort in your tummy. And I'm pretty sure that you really don't want to feel disappointed after that date, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody, stay away from pizzas, pastas, or even cheeseburgers if you're into that. Just stay away from cheese. I know that a lot of us, when we go on dates, we like to do the whole, I'm going to go have some Italian. And that is just, first of all, we're going to talk about carbs, which is one of the things that you should not have or eat right before when you're about to have sex. But stay away from from cheese particularly. And here's the thing too, it's like you guys got to remember that pizza dough is obviously made from wheat, which is an ingredient that can trigger gas and bloating in some people. And add the cheese on top of that, that's not going to help at all, particularly if you're lactose intolerant. And not to mention that if you order a pizza where the slice is dripping with grease, it will make you feel worse for like the longest time. And that's because the dietary fat delays gastric emptying to keep food in your system for longer. So stay away from pizza. What I would recommend is instead I would eat pasta. And I know I said pasta to stay away from pasta, but pasta that's lightly dressed in red sauce. Keyword here is lightly. I would hold off on the cheese. I mean, and technically pasta does go down more easily than dense pizza dough. So just stay away from cheese. Anything that has cheese, just stay away. Keep your tummy happy, especially if you're about to get into some sexercise. Now, the next one on the list that I think is very, very important, and I mean, I'm a fan of spicy food. I'm just going to say that. But I wouldn't eat spicy food right before. Like if I'm going to go on a date, I'm not going to eat spicy food, especially if I know that I'm going to be getting some at the end of the date. Because the problem with spicy food is it can cause acid reflux, indigestion, or even trigger you to go to the bathroom like 1,000 times. And that's not cute. That's probably a huge turnoff for most people, but really it's not cute that you put spicy food and then out of a sudden you're going in and out of the bathroom. It's not appealing, sexually appealing at all. And let's just be honest here is that some people are just more sensitive than others when it comes to what they eat, specifically spicy foods. It can cause tremendous amount of chaos and you don't want that. So you want to keep your happy, you want to keep your stomach happy. Because the thing too is that, spicy food can cause acid reflux, especially like chili peppers. So try to avoid it right before, getting laid, because you definitely don't want that to interrupt your time in bed. Save yourself the embarrassment of regurgitation or stopping mid session, let's just say, to run to the bathroom. You don't want that. So there's an oily component, just so you know, in peppers that makes them spicy, and that's capsaicin. And it can trigger heartburn, but most importantly, it can cause painful burning on this. It's the stuff that can cause painful burning on the skin. The reason I'm mentioning this because this chemical can also, you don't want to, let's say you kiss your partner and they're going to start feeling this burning sensation immediately when it touches their skin, especially like the membranes. Hence why the common recommendation of not rubbing your eyes while cooking with peppers. This is one of those reasons. And let's just say hypothetically that you or your partner has this chemical on your hands or on your mouth, and you're literally in the middle of love's, like about to, get it on. It can really, really be a painful experience, especially if you have those oils on your fingers and your skin. And here is the worst part, is that literally soap and water is not going to help to relieve the burning sensation. Because the truth is, capsaicin is actually it's oily, so it's very, very hard for it to be removed from your skin. And in the end, it's going to cause you more pain than anything. So stay away, guys, from spicy food. This is one reason why I highly recommend not to love Indian food, love Mexican food. Anything that has spicy food, it's just not a good thing. And I'm not saying that Mexican and Indian food are super spicy, but they're known to be those type of dishes within the culinary cuisine of those of Indian and Mexican food that can literally just have an opposite effect. And come on, these are spicy and heavy foods, so you want to stay away from that. Specifically, peppers and spicy food. Okay, and up next is beans. And if you're thinking of having a burrito bowl or a hummus or anything for a matter of fact that's made out of beans, the best thing is to actually avoid them right before lovemaking or getting laid. Because here's the thing, is that beans actually contain sugar molecules that are actually quite hard on the body to digest. Here's the best part, is that by the time it reaches your colon, the bacteria turns these molecules into a lot of gas. Hence why so many people get gassy when they eat beans. And I'm not talking about just regular beans. I'm talking, like I mentioned before, all kinds of beans, hummus, anything that's made out of bean. You're gonna have problems if you eat beans right before getting laid. Stay away from that, my friends, because you don't want to be farting away all night for sure. And here's another one too to stay away from is, and I know onions and garlic. I know I mentioned in last week's episode that garlic is actually, there's health benefits towards the libido, but you don't want to be having garlic like before having sex, nor onions. Because we all know, those two things are pretty potent and, they can give us bad breath. Here is the most interesting part, is that they also alter the odor of our secretions. So you do not want to smell like garlic or onion. I know, it's true, people. This is very true. Pungent foods are big no-nos for sex. Keep that in mind. But I'm pretty sure you guys are smart enough to know that. So just stay away from like onions, or your favorite garlic stuff that you like right before like the big night, And this one is going to come to a surprise to most of you, but desserts. Yes, I said that. Desserts. I know it can make us all weak in the knees, and we love to have that at the end of a dinner or enjoy dessert, with the person we're about to get laid or get lucky with. But the truth is that like all, desserts have there's so much sugar in them. And all those sugar-laden cakes and cookies can destroy your sex experience. And here's the thing, is because desserts are loaded with trans fat and sugar. And that can prevent you from reaching the big O. Here's something interesting too, is that the sweetness can also increase the insulin levels in your body. And that's not what you want in the bedroom. You do not want to have high insulin levels in your body, right? When you're having sex, you don't want that. And as mentioned before, if you're lactose, it's not a good thing. And don't think that if you go for, let's say, sugar-free dairy desserts, don't think that that's going to make it better, because, they pretty much, most likely, they contain artificial sweeteners like sorbitol and mannitol. And those two can cause gas or laxative effects, just so you guys know. However, we can't stay away from everything, but I will recommend that instead I would go for, low-fat ice cream or frozen or froyo. And yes, it's going to have the same amount of lactose as the real or sugar-free stuff without the fake stuff. So, meaning that it's not going to bloat you up. You're not going to get bloated, and it's not going to put you out of the mood. It's a little bit just less harsh, I guess, on the stomach. Okay, the next one is starchy carbs. And I love carbs. Love, 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 love carbs. I'm a carb whore, but I really have to limit that. Especially, we all love junk food, okay? And you don't want to have an overload of carbs, because consuming too much can actually reduce your blood sugar levels, and that'll make you super sluggish in bed, and no one wants that. So I recommend that if you want to spice up your sex life, ditch any carb-heavy meals like fries, rice, or pasta, as mentioned before. Another one is soy products. Soy might be very healthy, but consuming too much of it in, excessive amounts can cause hormonal imbalance, and that means, guess what? A low libido. And if you're vegan, avoid soy before a hot and heavy session. That's what I would recommend. It's really, really one of those things that I always forget to mention, but I'm throwing this out there because it's one of those products that you find kind of everywhere at vegan restaurants. Now, here is a big, big one that I really want to focus and kind of just let you guys know, but carbonated drinks, first of all, they're unhealthy, but they're like the worst beverages to have before sex. And why I'm saying this is because, first of all, it makes you bloated and gassy. And you don't want your lovemaking session to be interrupted by farts and burps. It's pretty gross, guys. Come on. And it's heavy on sugar, and that's just going to upset your stomach. So stay away from carbonated drinks that are just, honestly, they're just unhealthy in general. And of course, this includes beer. And, beer, you know what beer does. You drink too much beer, you feel bloated, you burp, you fart, it's uncomfortable, and your stomach just doesn't feel right. I will recommend that as far as like drinks, I would choose wine instead. Because wine is just a little bit safer. It's a safer bet. But let's just talk about, let's say you do go out for drinks. Since we're on the carbonated thing and we're talking about drinks. I know people like to go out for cocktails. Stay away from margaritas. Margarita mix, whether the margarita is mixed or it has lime juice, it's just there's so much sugar added, and that is notoriously difficult to digest. And that just goes for pretty much any other mix-based or syrup sweet drinks. It's just going to mess up your stomach, and you're going to feel weird. And I think a lot of us have gone through that, where you order, Sex on the Beach or a margarita, and then your stomach you feel the syrup, and that's just so much sugar. What I will recommend, though, is instead I would just go tequila, just have tequila straight up. And like I mentioned, wine. Because this way you're only going up against naturally occurring sugars, which is better than the other stuff. And I'm going to throw this out there because one of my favorite drinks is actually gin and tonic. Do not have gin and tonic. Rather just go for the vodka soda. overall, it's just alcohol. I know it kind of when alcohol has this what is it called? It has it gives us a euphoric high, and it makes us feel good. It makes us feel flirty, especially when when the date's going okay. It's we want to let down our guard. So alcohol is always, it tends to be like the go-to because it lowers our inhibition, but at the same time it could be a total buzz killer. Because the thing about alcohol is too much alcohol will increase the melatonin, which is the hormone that induces sleep and can also alter our libido. And no one wants whiskey dick. Excuse me and pardon, but that's the truth. No one wants, you don't want someone sluggish. You don't want to be the sluggish person. You don't want to be that other person that's just, I don't know. It's just, come on, don't jeopardize it because you're in the moment and you're like, oh, fuck it. I'm just, we're just going to have drinks. And then, one drink, two drink, three drink, and then boom, suddenly you realize you're just hammered, and that's just not good. You got to have some composure and stuff. Even if you're getting laid, guys. I'm not talking about going on a date, but I'm just saying you got to have somewhat of a composure. You don't want to be sloppy. And alcohol is just, come on. It's just try to limit it. Try to keep it at a healthy level. One drink's fine, two, that's kind of pushing it. But you don't want to be too, drunk, I guess, or buzzed. Now, the next one I want to talk about is actually very interesting. Salty foods. And why am I saying it's interesting? Well, for me, it's because I like salty foods. I like chips. I like all that stuff. But the truth is that foods that are loaded with salt will make you feel bloated in no time, like that. And I read some researches that actually products that have too much salt can actually prevent you from reaching orgasms by reducing your blood flow. And like I mentioned before, on last week's episode, you want to have healthy blood flow because blood flow is good for us, specifically for improving our libido and having a healthy libido. The last thing you want to do is reduce your blood flow right when you're about to get laid. And here's another one too, because I know people like coffee. Coffee, as you know, too much caffeine can actually raise your cortisol levels, which is actually the stress hormone. And high amounts of that can make it more difficult for your body to kind of relax to relax and lower your libido. Another food that you should stay away is processed meats. The truth is that processed foods are not recommended to maintain your sex drive. And the reason I'm mentioning processed meats is because I just want to give it a special mention. And the thing about with red meat is red meats with lots of saturated fat can actually clog your arteries and give you long-term erectile issues. I mentioned that in last episode about meats and going for the leaner cuts. You don't want to be eating too much, but meats also, before getting laid, it can make you a little bit lethargic, in my opinion. And here's another thing, and I forgot to mention, but energy drinks in general, first of all, are not good since they contain artificial sweeteners and are full of sugar, which could give you a boost in a short run, but in fact, they're actually more harmful for you in the long run. And here's the thing for my guys, mint. Yes, I said mint. I read somewhere that certain studies actually, I think they proved that the methyl presented in peppermints can reduce the testosterone levels, which can lower our sex drive. And of course, if let's say if you're worried about bad breath and your date is around the corner or the person you're going to get laid is around the corner, you can pop one. All I'm trying to say is that nothing is good in excess. That is what I'm trying to say, folks, here. So another one that I actually want to talk about, which is my favorite, one of my favorite vegetables is actually broccoli. And actually, broccoli is not very good for our libidos. And apparently it's because our bodies produce methane to digest it. And that results actually in excess gas and can put us pretty much not in the mood of, getting laid or having sexercise. It's not good for us. Apparently, this is probably one of the ones that I actually really, really, I'm probably going to do a little bit more research, but I recently have been seeing broccoli pop up a lot that it's not, even though as healthy as it is, it's just not good for our libidos. I mean, the truth is I'm not going to stop eating this healthy green because it's so rich in vitamins and minerals, but just avoiding it right before having sex is key. That's what I'm trying to say here. Look, folks, I know that I just talked about foods to avoid right before sex. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because, like I said before, sex is such an important part and it should be treated as something that, like, it should be treated as fitness, part of fitness. I know it sounds weird, but I think that this is one of those things that makes every human happy. And like I said, what we put in our bodies, has effect, and it's very important. We got to be considerate and know these things, because it's so important. It's very important to understand our sex health, uh, because it's gonna make us better lovers, partners, you name it, in bed. And most importantly, our bodies are gonna feel great, and we want to give our bodies the best. Especially, we want to know what not to have right before sex. Sex is an awesome experience, and I strongly believe that we should all know these things. Listen, I'm learning too. You guys are all learning, but it's very important to be aware, because it makes us, I don't know, it's just freaking cool to know this stuff and know, because there's been times, at least in my experience, where I've been not in the mood and I couldn't understand why. And looking back and taking inventory of the situations where I've been, where I was like, I was not in the mood to have sex, it had to do with what I ate before. And here's the thing is, we should not be in a position, or we should not put ourselves in a position where we don't want to have sex. Okay, I understand that there might be things happening in life, but overall, it should never come to that point where we have to think like, oh, I'm not feeling well. We should be feeling well because it's part of the experience, right? Having sex requires two people to participate, two individuals to participate. And it's just awesome and it's amazing. And I strongly believe that we need to just know this shit, period. Like, we've all been in those situations where, whether you've been the one that didn't want to have sex right after, going on a date, eating, whatever, or the other person, and it just sucks. It just sucks when one person is not in the mood, and it's just better. Obviously, it's better when both people are in the mood. And if you're like me, I don't want to be that person that's going to deprive another. It's just, I don't want to be that person that's going to that says no. Get it? I understand. Yes, if it's not going anywhere, of course there's a no long before, but I'm saying, like, you're in it, like, you're really into the person and it's just hitting it off, and the energy, the chemistry, and everything's just happening, and then you eat something terrible and then boom, you're not in the mood. Okay, that's just not gonna fly. I mean, you're gonna feel bad, but the truth is just, it's like, we had the ability and the power to control what we put in our bodies right before having sex, and we should just know this stuff. I mean, we all do it. We all know exactly, oh, okay, I'm gonna go on a date, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that, because we just gotta listen to our bodies. I think at the end of the day, the one thing that I think we really need to know is that I might have mentioned all the foods that, let's say, we shouldn't eat right before sex, but at the same time, you got to trust your body. We got to trust our bodies. We know exactly what works for us before sex, like what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating. And that's all I'm saying, because it's I think that, being aware of the foods that affect us in bed is so important. It's important to start being consciously aware of these things overall, because when we start paying attention to our bodies, specifically like right before sex, we're gonna know what's our go-to foods, our go-to things that work for us, right? And that is what we need to understand. Need to understand, like, how can we be prepared overall, so we're game, to play, to go and and do some sexercise. I'm gonna share a story. Many moons ago, I went out on a date, and I wanted to have Indian food. And Indian food, I love it because it's spicy. And what ended up happening was I forgot what I had back then. I think it was like some sort of curry, and curry is very heavy in fats and spiciness. And everything was going so amazing on the date. Like, we hit it off, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm gonna get my sexercise at the end of this. I was like pumped up. Literally, probably like when we got into the car, I would say like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, my stomach, there was some sort of like internal civil war going inside my stomach, to the point that I literally we got to the person's house. Oh my God. And I just said, I need to step outside to make a phone call. Do you mind? And they were like, okay, that's weird. But I was like, it's just complicated. I just need to step aside. Guys, I didn't step aside. I stepped aside to call a cab and left, because I literally had to go to the bathroom so bad. And the truth is that I was so embarrassed. Like, I couldn't use the bathroom, that person's bathroom, because it was going to be more embarrassing for me. And you don't want to be caught up in the situation like that. You don't want some civil war happening inside your stomach right before sex, because that's the last thing. And it's a very, very embarrassing moment to excuse yourself because you're having stomach issues. And yeah, the person might be nice enough to say, oh, no, don't worry, it's fine. But the truth is, it's embarrassing for us, because we were in a situation where we were about to get laid, and boom, our stomach's not feeling well, and we gotta jam, we gotta go. It's not cute, it's not sexy, and it's gross. Well, not gross, but it happens. But anyways, at the end of the day, I just talked about the worst foods you can eat before sex, and I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email us at whiskeysextalk@icloud.com. That's whiskeysextalk@icloud.com. Till next time, guys, have a great and wonderful day. Bye. I'm still here, but one last thing. Go ahead and you guys just shoot me an email if you guys have any interesting topics that you guys want me to talk about. Shoot me an email. Let me know. I will talk about it. Heck, I'll bring you on to the show. We can talk about it. Whatever you guys want, feel free, shoot an email, and we'll take it from there. Bye.